Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of Touchdown Talk. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, and we have week 3 of college football starting up tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. So we've got 3 days in a row of it. Nothing crazy tomorrow. I know it's Wake Forest. I'm trying to think against who they play. Maybe NC State. Some more games on Friday, 4 or 5 of them, and then Saturday we have the whole slate per usual, where you got conference games kicking off and some pretty good ones. So let's jump right into it. My bet for the week, I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bets. 2 of them are in one game, so it's kind of a pick and choose. So yeah, let's just get into it. My first game is Friday night, 6:30. Colorado coming to town versus Houston. Houston is -4.5. I got them early. I've seen it jump all the way up to 5.5 now. I like this game for the position Houston's in. They have a pretty solid defense. It's been improving year under year with Willie Fritz, and they have a quarterback in Connor Wegman that can lead an offense and be pretty solid. So my biggest highlight in this game was the fact Connor Wegman is there now starting. A guy who's been at A&M who's there for 2 years, dealt with some injuries, lost the job to Marcel Reed, but was a good team player about it. He just wanted what's best for A&M. But obviously, with today's NIL landscape and portal, he was gone. And so he stayed in state, went down to Houston. I think he'll thrive there. He's done well the first 2 games. And I think this game's no different. Colorado's defense, nothing really has stuck out to me the past 2 weeks. They got ran all over against Georgia Tech at home. And then last weekend won 30-9 against Delaware, which a team they're supposed to. But on the other side of the ball for Colorado, Caden Salter really hasn't shown too much of the Liberty Caden Salter that we had seen previously. And I know it's just taken some time, but he doesn't have that much more time before conference play starts, and then he's trying to scramble and get 5 wins to make a bowl game. He didn't even play last game. Ryan Stahm was the leading passer last week for Colorado against Delaware. Now it's a game that you look at and you're saying, well, you don't really need Caden Salter. That's true, but he needs some more experience in this offense if they want any chance of making noise in the Big 12. I think with the question marks that are all around Colorado this year, just from what I've seen in the first 2 games, not sold on them, and I think that continues. So that is why I'm laying Houston -4.5 to win outright and to cover. I think it's a touchdown game. Could even be more. A Friday night atmosphere, Houston, they'll have their fans there. They'll be loud. So give me Houston -4.5 for that one. Next, we roll into Saturday, 11 a.m. kickoff in a team that I am high on this year. As you guys know from watching my previous videos, making the college football playoff is Georgia Tech versus Clemson, where Georgia Tech is at home and is 3.5-point underdogs. Now that line has moved drastically. It has moved from +6.5 when it opened to 3.5 currently. I was late to this, but grab 3.5, a good line still to take. I think this game is going to be close. I think it's going to be low scoring, just from Georgia Tech, time of possession, where their rushing offense is next to none through the first 2 weeks. Granted, last week you won 59-12, but you had 300 yards, over 300 rushing yards against Colorado week 1. Haynes King contributed half of that. Jamal Haynes has been a big key in their success. I think if those two can have the same results as the first 2 weeks, then they'll have a field day against this Clemson defense that is still figuring it out just as much as the Clemson offense is. Now you look at the other side. Cade Klubnik, who everybody expected this year, including myself, I had him winning the Heisman. I'm getting close to throwing that out the door. He hasn't really been the passer we all thought he was going to be. And whenever he's not that, you would expect him to use his legs a little bit. And that has not been the case the past 2 weeks. LSU, that championship defense, did not allow him to scramble and really get the yards he needed in big-time spots. Last week against Troy, you're down 16-3 at halftime. 16-3 at home. Now, you did rally back to win 27-16. Defense stepped up in the second half. But Cade Klubnik finished with 182 passing yards. You can't have that out of your star quarterback who's supposedly a top 5 in the country, expected to go first round this upcoming draft. Especially whenever your drives are going to be limited against a Georgia Tech team that will carry the time of possession and try to keep your offense off the field as much as possible. Where you're going to have to score 4 of the 5 drives you get, and those need to be touchdowns. We'll see if Clemson can right the ship and get their offense going in a way that sustains and can get the win there. But I think Georgia Tech just is a different team this year. I think this is one of the ACC games of the year, and it's early on. It'll be bigger than what most people think, which is why I call it an ACC game of the year. But give me Georgia Tech plus 3.5 at home versus Clemson. And then we move into the 2:30 slate. We have, let's go with my first one in the 2:30 slate. I have 2 of them. USC minus 20.5 at Purdue. I told you guys I'm going to keep riding this team until they don't hit. This could be a weekend that they don't hit. But Purdue has not done anything to say, yeah, they'll compete with a highly talented offense like Jaden Maeva, Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, all those guys. And USC actually has a defense this year. So a Purdue offense that isn't really explosive, I guess you want to say. They get the job done, but they've played cupcakes for their first 2 games. I think Purdue will have it rocking and rolling there. But I think first year under Barry Odom, bringing in a lot of new guys, I find it hard for their defense to keep the ball in front of them for a lot of time this game. I mean, you look at Jaden Maeva, through 2 games, has 700 plus passing yards, 75% completion percentage, and hasn't played the fourth quarter of games. He's played 6 of the 8 quarters that he is stressed out for. That is pretty telling right there that their offense is much more efficient this year. It's always been efficient, but it's just kind of that next level this year. Now with a defense that can actually stop a team, we'll see if that transitions to some of the Big Ten conference play now. But yeah, not too much in depth in this. Give me USC minus 20.5. I think they come out and just kind of roll this game. Now the other 2:30 game, kind of no surprise here. Georgia at Tennessee. Georgia minus 3.5. Opened at 7.5. The 4-point swing, kind of crazy. But I think I feel good about Georgia minus 3.5 in a game that Joey Aguilar has played Syracuse and then East Tennessee or whoever it was last weekend. Two defenses that are not Georgia caliber, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see if the pass game for Joey Aguilar and these new wide receivers for Tennessee that are young, playing their first SEC conference game, how they react to kind of a different pressure, kind of playing a little bit quicker this week. Now Georgia, on the other hand, has been a little slow out of the gate. Gunnar Stockton has not, has looked good, but they are not beating teams like they should, as sound, I guess you could say. Now, Tennessee's defense is pretty good. I would say that's the highlight of their team this year. But the real question mark in this game, and what affects this spread, this minus 3.5 right here, is Georgia continuing the slow out of the gate. Because if they're slow out of the gate and making Tennessee hang in this, and it's a 13-10 lead at halftime, then you kind of look at, hey, does the crowd at Tennessee really play a factor in the second half? And what changes, what defensive adjustments and offensive adjustments at halftime do they come out with to kind of disrupt Georgia and their defense and their offense? So, all that being said, I think Georgia, Kirby Smart hasn't lost to Tennessee in a while, let's just say. I don't think they do this weekend. And so give me Georgia minus 3.5 at Tennessee. Yeah. And so now, getting down to Saturday night, I have backing again the Arkansas Razorbacks. Give me Arkansas and Ole Miss over 62. This line feels low, and it's in the 60s. This is a game where last team has the ball wins, in my opinion. I also grabbed Arkansas plus 8.5 early in the week, and it is now down to 7 flat. So got something there. That is my play. I actually took both. Kind of divided a unit on it. I think with these two defenses that haven't really been tested yet, it's going to be an eye-awakening for anybody watching this game that's a fan of both teams, just to see how good your defense really can be this year. Ole Miss losing all their defensive studs to the draft last year and revamping their defense is really going to be a big test of, hey, this is a good offense. We can't take them lightly. We trounced on y'all last year at Arkansas. It's at that game. It was miserable. I think Arkansas scores more than 31 points as compared to last year. I don't think they give up 63 like they did to Ole Miss last year because that secondary is more improved. You went out and got guys, proven guys. Connie Walker from OU, Julian Neal from Cincinnati. It's just your secondary is much more established this year with a good front seven, but it's a not very deep line for Arkansas, defensive line. Having to move Blackstock to defensive tackle kind of shows you that right there. So really, your depth on the defensive line is key to this game because you are going to have to keep your starting D-line as fresh as possible, but also still not give up 150 yards to Kawan Lacey. But you also got to get pressure on Austin Simmons, who under pressure has not looked good through his first two games. Struggled against Georgia State and then struggled and had to come back against Kentucky. I know they kind of took the lead there at the end, and that was that. But Kentucky's defense in my opinion, and I think that goes for most people, is not as good or talented as this Arkansas defense is. So it'll be interesting to see how Austin Simmons can react to, I wouldn't say quicker defense, but just a little more talented and coverable defense. But then on the Arkansas side of offense, you're relying on the rushing game a lot, which Mike Washington, 195 total yards through 2 games. Taylor Green, 3 yards behind him at 192. Arkansas is 4th in the nation in total offense. I mean, it's going to be fireworks. You should expect fireworks and nothing less from it. I think with an over like this and 2 teams that have highly stout offenses, I think Arkansas +8. I think a touchdown game on either side. I can pick Arkansas for the upset here just because the momentum, they don't want what happened last year to happen to them again. And they'll play with that chip on their shoulder and try to walk out of Oxford with a W. But give me Arkansas +8 and Arkansas Ole Miss over 62. I think that could be pushing 80 points. Yeah. I mean, I feel confident about either two, so play what you want. Then at 7 o'clock on Saturday, you have Tulane -1 versus Duke. Darian Mensah return. Need I say more? I mean, this Tulane crowd is going to be riled up. You got New Orleans Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Those students are going to be chirping. They're going to be loud. And Jake Retzloff has looked the part so far in this Tulane offense. He's picked up well for getting here in August, July, whatever it was. Then on the other side of the ball, Mensah hasn't looked too impressive against Elon and Illinois. Illinois, they got shellacked in the second half. It was a 2-3 point game at halftime, and they lose by 26. Now, most of it was from a muffed punt, fumble, all that. But your offense couldn't keep up with Illinois' offense. And I think Tulane's offense is very good. I think you got Fluff Brothwell name back there, where you can attack both passing and on the ground. And so I think this is one of Tulane's biggest games of the year, if not the biggest. So give me Tulane -1 against Duke for a big win for John Summerall and this Tulane team. Getting into some other games where I don't have bets on them, but are, big games on the slate. You have USF at Miami. 2 weeks ago, you would have looked at this and been like, what? But now, it's a top 25, top 20 matchup where you got number 5 Miami going against number 18 USF at Miami. Miami has played Notre Dame, big win, and then Bethune-Cookman, where you're doing what you're supposed to do there. And USF, the only team in college football that has 2 ranked wins, and it's only week 3 now, going into week 3 now. I think Bynum Brown and USF's offense is very good, but I think this Miami team is the real deal. I think Carson Beck looks much better than he did, more settled in at Georgia, this kind of place he needed to be. Miami's defense looks very good as well. I don't have a bet on this game, but if I did, I think this is kind of a USF gets put back in their place type of game. And I think Miami comes out and wins about 31-10, maybe 35-13, 14, something like that. I just think USF had their fun. I'm not saying that their season shot, with this game. But I just think Miami is a much better team and gets the job done in a convincing fashion. Moving on to another Florida team, the Florida Gators, at LSU, an 8.5-point spread. How does Florida respond on the road in a night game in Death Valley? You know, looking at this team, I was high on them coming into the year. But now you lay an egg at home against USF, where you had chances all the time to win the game. How are you going to respond against a defense that is national championship caliber and an offense that, granted, is still trying to figure out their spot, but they're just as highly talented as any offense in the country with Garrett Nussmeier in the backfield? I think this game will show you how much fight Florida has, but if it is not close, it will not surprise me if Billy Napier is gone by next week. Honestly, if they lose by 21 points, I think, and it's like 31-10, I think he's gone. And I hate that. He's a good guy, but I don't think Florida was the right fit for him. It hasn't been for the past 3 years. 4 years, whatever we're going on now. But he's 20-20. No Florida coach has survived a 500 record through their first 40 games. Dan Mullen was 34-15 and got fired. So for Florida to continue on with this, it's just how serious are we going to get about getting back to the way we are? Because after this, including this game, you have 5 weeks of top 25 matchups. You got this, Texas, A&M, and then Tennessee, maybe that early. Either that or Georgia. Either one. Where do you win a game in that? Where do you win a game in that? You don't. And so, really, a year that was looking 8-4, 9-3, promising, now turns into, how do we get 4 wins? They're only favored in 2 games the rest of the year, and it's going to be Mississippi State and Florida State, which I get rivalry game at home, but still, I don't know. It's a lot of question marks around Florida because you thought you knew what they were going to be this year, and now you're questioning everything. So, I don't know. That's a tough game. No bet there. Florida could show up and could make it a game, lose by 3. It's just too high of a spread to take where it was 8.5. Then my last game that I have a preview for is Texas A&M and Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Notre Dame coming off a bye week after a loss to Miami, a tough one. How does CJ Carr and this team bounce back, I guess you could say, or do they look rejuvenated, ready to go? Because this is your second big game in a row. The key for Notre Dame is getting Jeremiah Love more involved. And as outgoing as that sounds, as crazy as that sounds, saying, Brett, why do you say that? He had 10 carries against Miami. In a game where they needed him to probably have 20 and they win. And then you have Price running the ball more than he does. So it really was a big question mark for Notre Dame in that game one as to what was the philosophy and the thinking there. But then with Texas A&M, UTSA opening up the year, you didn't look convincing with them at home. Utah State, you pulled away, you looked convincing there, 44-22. But Marcel Reed on the road in a hostile environment against a top defense in the country, up there with LSU. Is he able to pass against this secondary? Or is he going to have to rely on the run game against a front 7 that's ridiculous? Him and Le'Veon Moss will have to combine for over 200 rushing yards, if not more, to have a chance to win this game if he can't pass. Now, I think Mike Elko is good enough, and they have good play calls, to where they'll get Marcel Reed comfortable in what works for him against Notre Dame defense. It may be quick stuff. And if quick stuff is working, then it opens up the run game, but then also taking shots down the field, where if that quick pass isn't working, you go run, 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 and then you're able to take that shot. Defense isn't expecting it. So it's really not really a pivot point that much for A&M as it is Notre Dame getting off on the right foot. Because if you go 0-2 in your first two games against two good teams, do you finish out the year 10-2, or does the train come off the tracks a little bit? And now I'm not saying that they're going to go 7-5, 6-6. But you may go 8-4, 9-3, and with being an independent, you may miss a college football playoff there, being outside of that top 12, because you don't have the top four bids anymore, and then the other 8 teams. So it's a big game for Notre Dame as much as it is A&M. No bet there, but I will just enjoy the game. It'll be a good one. I mean, it's going to be touchdowns at a premium. The under may be a good look there. I think it could be a 27-20 ball game, 23-20. If I had to choose a side, I'd take Notre Dame at home. I would trust them more. It's just CJ Carr needs to have a big game, and he knows he does. So that wraps up the previews, predictions, and best bets I have for Week 3 college football. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more. We'll be back with a recap early next week, and then roll into Week 4 as well, where we'll have more big games. I mean, this season's been great so far. Can't ask for anything more from college football returning. So that's all I got for today. I will talk to you guys later. See ya.